The Slayers of Boredom Podcast.
Yeah.
There it is.
We only made it to 8 this year.
That's all right.
Dude,
This
life's
year's
tough.
been fucked up. So
Yeah, man.
I don't care.
It has been. Shit. So,
Whatever.
what have you been up to since the last time I saw you, which I guess was when? Sometime in October, probably.
I think so. Yeah, it was definitely because whatever. We were supposed to have one on the last Saturday, but my job has been insane, and so they sent me to Rhode Island, even though they never sent me anywhere before. And
Oh, dude, really?
yeah, I did a deployment, and it was actually a pretty cool experience, but it sucks.
I like Rhode Island.
I'm like deploying computers, and they're saying it doesn't matter. But either way,
It
so
does.
that's why we couldn't.
It matters.
That's why we couldn't do Saturday was because I was getting back from Rhode Island.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
None of this matters.
But either way, the what have I been up to? Phew. Other than that, it's been stressful. So just consuming entertainment. You know? You watch. I know you're watching shit.
Yeah, I'm on my second week of being unemployed. It sucks. For anyone that gives a fuck, I used to work for a Ford dealership, and they basically don't want people to buy cars in person anymore. They want you to go online, all that shit.
Yeah.
Get financed online, then go to some location and pick up a car, and they'll probably go to vending machines like Carvana, all that bullshit.
Yeah.
So we're a smaller dealer, and they fucking shut down the sales point, and I lost my job. So I don't know. It sucks, man. I've applied to probably over 40 jobs at this point. I haven't found anything yet. I know this is a bad time of the year. It's almost Christmas, so there's hiring freezes. No one wants to deal with it. So for the first time in my adult life, I'm on unemployment. I've filed for 1 week of it. I'll file for this week on Sunday. I haven't seen any money yet because it takes forever.
You know what I
And
hate?
it's not much, but it'll be enough to keep, keep my bills afloat as far as the family goes.
Yeah, it's a misconception with unemployment that it's the government paying you. It's the company situation you've paid into for how many years you've been working there?
20 years.
20 years you've been working there.
I'm 38 years old. I've been working since I was 18, so...
You've paid into a pot that everyone else has paid into in case, you would lose your job or somebody would be fired. Well, I don't know. Somebody would have to be laid off and deserve unemployment, and then it's there. So people look down on you like, oh, you're just sitting around, you're getting your unemployment. It's like, no. It's not the situation at all. I paid for this so that I could take my time getting a job I deserve and not having to rush into the workforce.
Again, yeah, people like to believe the anecdotes that they're told about people mooching off the system, and then all of a sudden everybody's a moocher when they need a little bit of assistance that they've paid into for 20 years. But I don't give a shit. Anybody can fucking say whatever they want about me. If you want, just let me get your email address, and I'll send you every single application I've sent out over the past 2 months since I found out this was happening. And fuck you.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but yeah, entertainment. I mean, I don't know. I've been playing a lot of guitar, watching some movies.
We got a show, June 28th.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Our band, is it the 28th? I don't know when it is, but yeah, sometime in June, our bands have a show at some place I've never been to in York.
The Kennel.
The Kennel. Seems cool.
Oh, it's so cool.
Is it?
Yeah, we played
Nice.
there once. It was a very eclectic lineup, and we stood out like a sore thumb. But we had
Our bands will mesh well together. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah, that whole lineup is amazing.
Here Away.
Beneath us, Here Away, and so it's come to this. And
Yeah, man.
It's going to be great. And it's at the Kennel in York, June 28th. But we'll
Yeah,
cover that.
whatever. Come or don't come. Shows are just whatever.
You should come.
We're playing Post Rock Fest out in Indianapolis. Did I tell you that?
Matt did.
Oh, what is that like?
Post Fest,
like is lame.
Let me tell them what Post Fest is. Post Fest is a post rock festival that houses the greats. It's something I've wanted to go to. Like Arctangent is another festival that's in the UK that is just the same. It's where I go to look at their flyer to find new bands because it's always the best of the best. And the idea of going as a band is what we've been trying to do, just to witness it as a bonding experience. This motherfucker is fucking playing it. Oh my god,
dude!
I'm so happy for you, dude.
I'm sorry, I didn't even, dude. It's all Matt. He's a freaking guru, man. Like
Well, you deserve it. You do. You deserve it. You got tons of followers. Your music's.
We have a really good sounding album.
It's great.
That we as individuals in the band paid a lot of money for, but Matt especially financed it. So Matt put a lot of work and money into it. You know what I mean? That's why it sounds great. We worked hard on it. Worked hard on the songs.
And that's called being humble, everyone. But either way, it's well deserved to be on that festival. It's mind boggling.
Are you going to come out there and see us?
Yeah, of
nice,
course
cool.
I'm going to be there for that. I've always wanted to go.
I think my wife's going to come too, but if not, the only one I'm staying with is my bass player.
Okay.
He's a big old cuddly black man. I love him to death. I'll share a room with him or a bed. No one else. Unless it's my wife.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
But yeah, I don't know. There are some things I have to say since we do love cinema on this podcast before we get into, the deep and dark nature that it generally is.
Dark.
Last Voyage of Demeter. Okay, I read reviews. Do you know what movie that is?
Oh, I saw it in theaters.
Okay. I read reviews before I see movies all the time. I didn't hate it. I thought the cinematography was awesome. I thought the acting was really, really good. It just wasn't, I don't know. It was okay. I give it like a B+.
They marketed it like a horror, and it was more of a thriller. That was my disappointment, but overall I liked it. It was just that I went in thinking there was going to be more of an scary aspect to it, where to me it was more of like a monster, and I don't know, it didn't have the same scare factor.
It was Dracula, right? I guess.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, so that fucking thing was pretty creepy.
I mean, it was.
Like
don't get me wrong, but
the first kill, and I don't care if you haven't seen it by now. I mean, what the fuck? It's been out for long enough. Fucking the first kill where it's just like sitting there under the steps, and it's just like, and he's like, it's like, oh, what is that? And it turns and then just jumps on him. I was like, oh my God, that was fucking weird. You know what I mean? So, not like a jump scare, but just like, oh, that was fucking creepy as shit.
That's what I mean.
When it's chasing that guy up the mast and it just like looks at him, like when it comes in like the moonlight, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, it was a great monster. It was a great monster.
It was a great monster, that's for sure. But it wasn't.
It wasn't what I expected, and I felt like it wasn't what they promoted. But overall, I would still recommend people see it. Just know you're going in, for a decent ride.
I saw Oppenheimer.
I haven't seen it yet, so don't spoil anything. Okay, well, I know the end.
Well, I mean, okay, so Oppenheimer. I mean, whatever. It's. I didn't need to see it on film. I've seen I mean, you can just go on Netflix right now and see there's a World War II, basically like from the first person perspective, like all colorized and digitized, whatever the hell those people do, just like really cleaning up the old footage. And I just finished that series. That was amazing. And they have Oppenheimer's blast on there and stuff like that. And it was much more impressive just seeing it there than like having it reconstructed in the cinematic universe and through the lens of Christopher Nolan. You know what I mean? Like, guy's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love that guy. Inception's one of my favorite films. It wasn't like, what was that? What's that asshole Logan Paul or Jake Paul? One of those.
Both of them.
Okay, yeah. One of them was just like, yeah, I had to walk out because it was just people talking the whole time. Like typical, like, okay, you can't sit down and watch like a movie filled with dialogue. But at points, it did feel kind of like, I don't know.
Didn't do it for you.
It did. He always does a great job with suspense. So like the suspense was always good, but it wasn't like.
Did it make it seem like it's an awful scenario the whole time, or was it like a glorified scenario? Like,
oh no, it was. I mean, it didn't go the route of like Oliver Stone. You know what I mean? But
it wasn't allowed in that country. They said and when asked about it, they were like, "Would you want to watch from the perspective of the 9/11 terrorists?" Like, no.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure.
But I didn't care about it too much. I do want to see it. I love Cillian Murphy. I think he's one of the better actors out there. So I would like to see it, but I haven't caught it yet.
I saw Napoleon with my stepdad yesterday, and like
Napoleon.
Yes.
Oh my God,
dude.
It's a fucking throwback.
What do you mean throwback?
Oh, I thought Napoleon.
Not
Dynamite.
Napoleon. No,
like,
no, the
Jesus,
film
fuck.
Napoleon, Ridley Scott.
Oh yeah. Joaquin Phoenix. I know what we're talking about now. I'm back.
So like I couldn't. Somebody again. One of the reviews I read, it was like it seemed like Joaquin Phoenix showed up on set and was just like, I don't care. What am I supposed to do? And like, as I'm watching this movie and I'm watching him act, like I'm keeping that little fucking nugget in the back of my mind the whole time. And it's just getting closer and closer and closer to the front of my brain to the point where I'm just like, he didn't give a fuck about this movie.
No?
No, dude. It is cinematically beautiful, as most Ridley Scott films are. But first of all, everyone, as they tend to do when, making films that take place in Europe and different countries that don't speak English, people just tend to have British accents. And he was the only one without one. So it's kind of like that Robin Hood sense with Kevin Costner. You know what I mean? It's just like, this just doesn't fit, dude. Like, you sound so different from everyone else. And that was just kind of the case because Joaquin he was just talking like Joaquin. And it was just so...
That's weird as shit.
And again, he appeared to be like this petulant man-child, which, apparently is like the rumor. And like there's scenes where like, it's not going to ruin the movie by telling you this, but like there's scenes where like, he'll watch Josephine flirting with someone and then it's just quick cuts to him just like banging the shit out of her doggy style, but just like, like just to the point, and then she's just like rolling her eyes like, yeah, whoop-de-doo. It's just, again, reinforcing that sense that he's just an immature, freaking insecure, petulant child. You know what I mean? Who's just taking it all out like, it's fucking ridiculous.
I'm still gonna watch it.
It's, I couldn't. It's like one of those movies where it's like, is it taking itself seriously? Like, is this a serious movie? Like, I'm watching it. It's beautifully shot, and then Joaquin comes in there, and I'm just like, is this fucking serious? Like, I kept thinking that the whole time. It was hilarious. Other than that,
Did you see the Leonardo DiCaprio Flowers of the Sour Moon or whatever it is?
No, I have not.
It's supposed to be really long.
Like 3 hours
really
long.
But
Yeah, freaking John Oliver made a joke about it in one of his episodes. Like something about some woman was going on some diatribe for 3 hours or something like that, and he was like, and if you've seen Killers of the Flower Moon,
that's what it is.
then 3 hours is a long time. And John Oliver, that guy's great. You should always, if you do like listening to us, and if you few listeners, always sprinkle in John Oliver, as well every week if you can. Man's genius.
I mean, what was it? Freight Trains was the most recent one.
Yeah. My wife and I, we watch it every week, and she does a lot of work with them through Gannett Fleming, and I don't think she has, generally shining feelings about them. So,
well, it's just like, I'm just going off of like Freight Trains. I don't know shit. Nor have I ever researched anything about them. So John Oliver covers it in a way that's entertaining, and I'm, genuinely interested now in the entire industry.
I mean, that's the whole shtick of the show, and it's well researched, and the comedy's great.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, people are just gonna it's just gonna provide a lot of information that people aren't gonna want to hear, and they're gonna want to deny because it doesn't fit their worldview. And so, in that sense, I guess it's liberal or left leaning.
Yeah. No, it's 100% liberal left leaning.
Of course, but every like that. All right, yeah, that's true. Dude, I mean, he'll make fun of Democrats just as much. I mean, I'd say,
of course, but we know,
it's more so
left leaning just means informed.
It's interesting. It's interesting and factual studies into real problems in this country that he exposes in a way that just when you walk away after watching an episode, you're just like, how can this be?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
that's
he's
the
just
moments that,
and that's what I'm saying. They're well researched. He's, his delivery is great. They work hard as shit on that show, man. I think they're good for another 3 seasons, so they're through 2026, I think.
Jeez.
On HBO, which he makes fun of all the time. I love it.
Yeah. But, we're 15 minutes in. I'm sure people are bored of hearing this.
All right,
let's get to the topics.
All right, man. Well, where do you want to kick this off at? Because I've been reading a book. I hate fucking saying that shit, but like, again, there's just some certain arguments that, I pulled some videos from, Noam Chomsky, Jon Stewart that I've saved, and that I think address certain arguments going on in regards to what's going on.
So our last cast
in Gaza
was, Israel, Hamas conflict. I think that we covered pretty much what was happening in the moment. We used the headlines. It was very new. We didn't know how far it was going to go. How I
reactionary, knee-jerk headlines.
Yeah, and overall, I mean, correction-wise, there is. This is going to be another cast on the same subject, just so you know.
All right. Well, for starters, like the main thing is we can't find any verifiable facts leading to the assertion that I say even saying it that babies were beheaded. We haven't found any as to whether or not that's true. Like, we don't know, but there isn't anything verifying it either. So again, we're not sure if this is some sort of propaganda. We're not saying babies and children weren't killed.
Yeah, but they.
It's just these added visceral things. Really, I mean, they can really inflame people to a degree that, like, I mean, again, I know the term was nuanced in the last one, but this seems just like a lot of like that amount of nuance can really drive a narrative.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to address that we're not saying that horrible things didn't happen, deplorable things that we obviously disagree with on behalf of Hamas on October 7th.
Yeah.
But to that degree,
you can look this up. You can just,
we just haven't found any, you know what I mean?
No. I mean, you can look up the videos of Hamas storming into Israel on October 7th. And I don't recommend it. It's not easy to watch, but it was indiscriminate killing of just random civilians. Anybody they came across, riding in them, motorbikes to a bike, and weapons hanging off their backs. It looks like a video game cutscene when they're going through these neighborhoods that are like almost pristine neighborhoods, nice neighborhoods, and they're going house to house, killing indiscriminately. Babies were killed. But, when you say babies were beheaded, your image is gross as shit. Babies being killed, still gross, still awful. But there's a visceral feeling, like you were saying, in the mental image of a baby being beheaded. So when we were perpetuating that storyline and those images, and to whoever happened to listen, it's not correct. Like when we looked back a little bit into the information we could find, the IDF spokesperson said babies were murdered. What's it matter how? But like that to me is a huge tell that he would have just confirmed it. Like we had like babies were beheaded. Bah, like bam, like let's keep that visceral feeling going. But instead, they said something that was roundabout. So to me, those are your tells that like, okay, it probably didn't happen that way. And again, not justifying anything. Like I said, look those videos up. It's terrifying. It's horrible. And that's why this conflict is one of the most, I am having the hardest time doing research because there is no side that is good. It's almost, I care for the Palestinian people that are just displaced and have been tortured for years, but
the only side is civilians. You know what I mean? Like they're both under various forms of what we refer to in the geopolitical world as the state. You know what I mean?
They voted for Hamas. They voted Hamas into their own legislature as their representatives. And
Hamas claims to be democratically elected, okay, but at the same time, I don't believe for a second that Hamas, a terrorist group funded by Iran, like just was like, oh, not influencing any of their decisions, not threatening to murder entire families like they have done. Their own people they've murdered.
Oh yeah, they don't
like
care.
I really vote for you're gonna vote this government into play or we're gonna kill your whole fucking family. So then they do, like I'm not.
They gave them enough supplies. Palestinian people, Hamas, when they were elected, gave them enough supplies and everything to keep them placated resource wise, and then use them as human shields. Like when Israel talks about the tunnels and these headquarters being in hospitals and schools, that's true.
Yeah, and those are war crimes, absolutely.
And it's like, but if you're going to use civilians as human shields, then you have to be okay with these civilians dying, to protect you.
Exactly, and that is Hamas. They don't
care.
They will do whatever means necessary to achieve their goal, which is to wipe Israel off the face of the map. That is within their founding documents. That is Hamas. However, okay, that doesn't mean like just forced coercion doesn't make somebody like rooting for the terrorists on their side. These people just want to live lives, but they're stuck in between a war, which is extremely one-sided. Okay, so yes, they are made human shields by, within the country where they live, by the government that they supposedly democratically elected that has been ruling them since like 2006, that being Hamas. Okay, but they are being bombarded an exponential degree at this point. Like this, how did you tell me earlier when I told you I stopped counting because I just couldn't do it anymore? 18-some thousand, and 7,500 of them are children.
18,000 was the number for yesterday,
and
7,500 are children. But before you go on, I looking back on all the attacks that were done by Hamas, or even before Hamas, it was always between like 20 to 150 killed Israelis, and then the retaliation was 10 times.
Yep,
10 times.
Absolutely, that's very true.
The last one I saw that was that was bad, I think, it was like I don't know, 129 were killed by Hamas, and then Israel killed almost 2,000, 1,800. 1,800. That was before this situation where 1,700 were killed on the Israeli side, and now 18,000 have been murdered by indiscriminate bombing, telling them to go south through pamphlets. Fucking raining
like they
from
did in
the
World
sky.
War II. That never worked.
And they tell them to go south, so some of them do go south, and then once they're done bombing the north, they bomb the south. They have nowhere to go. 95%. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting all wound up. But
No, you're right, dude. And you're absolutely right. And when you think about the psychological effect that this has, and this is, you're playing into the hands of a terrorist group. Like, what I'm saying is, like, again, it's almost like people want numbers, people want quick results. Okay, so and we're at the point right here where, again, when you're looking at the quantitative aspects of it, completely disproportionate numbers, like Sean was saying. You know, there's like a couple hundred or whatever, and like normally I'm not going to disparage between that type of thing, but when it's like 10, 100 times more than that, as in the grand scheme of things, you know what I mean, that becomes significant. So those numbers should mean something in that regard. Is basically what I'm saying. But at the same time, they don't, in this conventional warfare that is again, like, funded and encouraged by the West. And that's me reading this book. Like, that is my biggest problem. Like, there is a country that I think has a lot to do with the foundings of this conflict, and that is Great Britain. And I think America has carried that torch into present day. So again, we can get into that if you want, but that's, again, America bears a huge responsibility in this. I mean, being the one dissenting vote to continue a ceasefire, and that's what I'm saying.
The most recent with the UN?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 153 countries in the UN.
The whole world.
The whole world said, yes, we vote for a ceasefire. 23 countries abstained and 10 voted no. Israel and US, everyone you expect.
Because we're looking at those numbers you said. That, like, we're looking at those numbers of 18,000 versus, like, I don't, that's why the whole world is like, this needs to stop. And I'm just saying, like, and I said it before in the first episode, when you have that Western backing, that funding, that training, the intelligence group of Mossad, and the Knesset and fucking Bibi Netanyahu decide still to just carpet bomb everywhere, like, that is not the answer to rooting out Hamas if they're in these tunnels. Clearly, your bombings over the years have not had any effect on the stronghold of Hamas within Gaza and these areas. There has to be, and that's what I meant about the instant gratification, people wanting results now. It's going to be a long, hard-fought war if you have to go through these tunnels and deal with them that way. But killing innocent people with bombs is just, I don't understand how this is. I mean, it's not legal.
No, you shouldn't
but
understand.
This is the reason why people like Henry Kissinger, one of the newest members of Hell, is able to live in America to 100 after committing war crimes, after signing off on things, especially in Cambodia, where it's estimated like 250 to 500,000 people died as a result of him and Nixon wanting to bomb the shit out of that place. Nice little segue there, but I mean, it actually, it's not a segue. It relates perfectly to what we're saying, though, because what is it about these Western-backed countries like America? Like, it's, you know, because we're the shining light of the world, because we have the most money, because everybody wants to come and live here, and, you know, the American dream. Does that give us the right to commit these atrocities when any other time we would prosecute any other country that we could for committing them?
Yeah.
I mean, look at what's going on in Russia and Ukraine right now. We want to support Russia invading and stuff like that, even though they're getting their fucking asses handed to them. That's really, Putin's a fucking lunatic. But
we don't want to support Russia invading.
No, I'm saying we don't want to support them invading.
No, yeah.
Is that what
you said it wrong.
No, I'm sorry. I said it wrong. We don't want to support them invading, and even though they're getting their asses handed to them right now. And I was saying, I don't understand how Putin's continuing this. There's been like 300,000 killed, or his whole army's like wiped out. But again, like, it's just, the hypocrisy is insane, man.
I've never felt more on the other side of my country right now, because, you know, we outlaw abortion, and I'm like, oh God, the fucking GOP working their angles. I can see how it's all going down. I understand that there's a portion of the population that's pushing for it, blah 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 blah. But when it comes to a black and white, in my opinion, genocide, they sieged on this area, the Gaza Strip, and cut off all resources, electric, water, everything. You know, food, relief, medical supplies, everything. Cut that off months ago. And now they are on the ground after leveling it with airstrikes and bombardments indiscriminately. Now they're on the ground going through, clearing it out. and it's a genocide. 95% of the people have no clean water. 80% of the people are on the brink of famine. They or are displaced. 100% have no homes, have nowhere to go, and nobody's accepting them.
Yeah, they're refugees, and that brings up an important point about. I mean, the Palestinians as a people, the history since the late 1800s have just gotten fucked left and right.
Yeah,
like left and right. So it's again. This is again, you have to understand that like there's not justifying the atrocities that these terrorist groups, as a result of these atrocities happening to them, Palestinians. Like I'm not absolving these groups that come up from that and what they commit and stuff like that, but one can kind of understand how a people that again has been displaced, has been looking for just an existence, a nation for so long, or at least had one for a small amount of time. Until after World War II, you know what I mean? Like, you can understand why these things happen, why these terror groups emerge. And it's just, even from their own Arab countries reject them.
That entire area was like Palestinian control. And then in 1946,
it was known as Palestine.
It was split up. And you can see the maps from 1946 to now. And there were agreements that were in place, and nobody's ever abided by these things.
Let's go into this.
But they made these agreements where there were, all right, like that's the two-state solution they talk about, you know, where there's supposed to be areas for Palestinians and areas for Israelis. But the settlers, the Israeli settlers, moved in and just kept taking more and more land, like way more than what you're picturing right now. Totally encroaching on the idea. It's what America did to the Native Americans, essentially. Just constantly taking it over and just saying, well, it's the will of God. It's the way it's supposed to be. You have to deal with this. And, you know, I saw one video where the woman's like, you're stealing my home, to this settler guy. And he's like, if I don't steal it, somebody else will. His response, you know, because it's happening to him. So when they shoot rockets, and they have no like military, Hamas doesn't, you know, they're using like failed munitions from Israel to attack back. When you watch the videos of them storming into Israel, it's all T-shirts and bandanas across their faces and shorts and weird Adidas pants, you know, and it almost is more scary that way because it just feels so, again, visceral.
It's just weird.
But then you see the IDF, which is decked out in full artillery, you know, gear. Like they are... It's a totally...
Well, yeah, what did we say? How much do they get from us a year?
Like $6 billion
Whatever
a year.
Billions, and then not to mention all the benefits they have from AIPAC lobbyists. You know what I mean? Like making sure that we have their back in the geopolitical world. Like it's...
They funneled resources, Israel did. Resources away from Palestine. Anything Palestinian. So when you see the borders and one side is lush green and the other side's a desert-esque area, that's because they literally took all the water from them. It's been a full-on like assault on these people for years and years. This isn't just October 7th, all of a sudden shit hit the fan. This stuff's been going on since like 1900s.
It's been going on a lot longer than that.
You know?
Let's talk about this for a second. Okay, so one of the biggest arguments is which people were there first. And you know what the funny thing is? There's actual evidence suggesting that Palestinians and Israelites, I mean, they come from the same people.
Yeah.
The Canaanites.
They were there first.
So the Canaanites, all right, were who, and I think it's the Canaanites, the Jesuits, and the Philistines are like a very old group from that area that the Palestinians claim to be descendants from, okay? 3,000 years ago, the Israelites conquered them and was in that area for a bit until they were expelled by the Romans. And that's what really started the Jewish diaspora, which a diaspora is essentially just a group of people displaced throughout the world. So basically, Palestine's present-day narrative started in the late 1800s under Ottoman rule. Okay, World War I comes along. The British triumphantly defeated the Ottoman Empire, came in there, and was basically ruling the area. So as a result, there was this agreement, like Sean was talking about. And one of these agreements, the Sykes-Picot Agreement, was what established the famous chant for the Free Palestine chant from the river to the sea, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean. That was Palestine for basically actually the next 1917 to 47 when the UN established Palestine as an Israeli state. So during all of that, there was always this Zionist movement. Okay, and Zionist doesn't mean doesn't automatically mean like every Jewish person, okay? There are plenty of Jewish people in the diaspora that are not Zionists. They don't want to return to Israel. They might go and visit, but they don't, you know what I mean? That's not necessary to them. So there are a lot of people in this diaspora that aren't, actually agree with the Free Palestine movement, you know what I mean? Or at least the two-state solution. So once the British took over and ran for those 30 years, UN established Israel. At this point, this is when, land started being divvied up.
Taken.
Yes. Taken. Yeah, sure. I mean, Jerusalem especially. I mean, that's the one that as far as the religious significance goes, like that's the...
In the Jewish religion, Jerusalem is their number one holy site. In the Muslim religion, it's like third holy site, but it's on Muslim land.
In West Bank.
Yeah. But it was essentially with Trump
56. Yeah, 50. Yeah, I know. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It was approximately 56% of Palestine was allocated for Israel. Okay. So the 1967, the 6 Days War is where Israel really showed its might militarily, and this is where you'll see in those changing maps that you've seen all over the place. This is where you will see large swaths at this point being taken after this. So there's the leader of Egypt, Nasir. I don't remember his first name. His last name was Nasir. Was a staunch anti-Zionist. Didn't want Israel, wanted Israel wiped off the face of the map, and he had this idea of this pan-Arab state. So Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, all the surrounding areas would just have one Arab state, and actually a lot of Palestinians got behind that. So Israel, feeling threatened, kind of had this preemptive strike against them, which kicked off the 6 Days War, and Israel just beat the living shit out of everybody, and really just almost within a matter of months destroyed what I think was referred to as Nasirism. Yeah, but I mean Nasirism kind of just dwindled off, that whole pan-Arab idea. And this was the time when all of these surrounding Arab states kind of abandoned pan-Arabism and abandoned Palestinians as well. And this was at a time when there were huge amounts of Palestinian refugees that were turned away and just sent back to Israel.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of which, why I hate the British as well, when they were also ruling this, there was a Zionist movement that, again, was still opposed by most Palestinians, but this was happening during the Ottoman Empire and after the British was controlling after World War I. But a lot of times the British had policy where they would send these Jews, and most of them from the European diaspora, they would send them back to Europe in 1917. So what do you think happened to them after that? It's untold how many Jewish people who tried to go to Israel at that time were sent to their deaths by the British in Europe. It's, what I mean? Obviously, during the Holocaust and stuff. So, again, Israel got a lot more notoriety in the international community at this time after the 6 Days War. And this is when America really started to have a lot of influence and establish that relationship with Israel. And, the rest is history. We're basically the New England. They're a big interest to us. I mean, everybody wants to be there because of the Suez Canal to begin with, as far as, commerce goes.
Where the U.S. is coming from is evangelicals. Okay? That's what it is. It's Christianity. They want Jews back in Jerusalem. That is going to be the second coming of Jesus in their stupid fucking minds.
But from a geopolitical perspective, yeah, I mean, evangelicals, they're lunatics. That's what they want. But our government, it's a staging ground in the Middle East for us. That's why, that is a huge reason why.
I 100% disagree. Mike Pence has been quoted. Most of these congressmen have been quoted from the GOP that are evangelicals, that this is the goal. This has been the goal. Why we give them $6 billion a year is because we want them to take over, get Jerusalem, so we can have that second coming of Jesus. Pence,
sure. I'm not saying people don't believe that. I mean, there's fucking lunatics out there.
Maybe I'm conspiracy theory in here. No.
I'm not saying that doesn't. I'm not saying that doesn't influence some legislators that we have. But I mean, as a government, as the state, I think there's more. I think there's more economic and military reasons why. I mean, literally Suez Canal trade and Middle East oil. You know what I mean? Pretty soon, maybe it might start to segue more towards that religious view, because eventually once EVs start taking over and everything, we start abandoning oil. I don't know what's gonna. There's nothing in that part of the world for those people to I mean, it's going to be terrible.
It's going to be terrible. I'm with you there. And I bet there are strategic, geopolitical aspects to taking it. But in my mind, our government, which is ridiculously Christian and pushes for all their fucking wins, is just watching Jews fight Muslims while they get their Jesus. And that to me, again, where the fuck, why the fuck are we still stuck on fairy tales?
I don't know.
So much misery over this bullshit. But
I mean, a lot of a lot of this religious stuff was dormant at the time until like Israel showed its might. And like you're saying, some of these lunatics, this staunch Zionists were like, this is a sign from God. Like we defeated all of our Arab enemies around us in 6 days. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're moving in the West Bank. And that's what kicked off those West Bank settlement incursions that are still going on to this day. Yeah, they keep taking like inch by inch and displacing people. And like, okay, like there's the Jewish diaspora. They didn't have a place to go. Not saying all of them wanted to have like this state of Israel, you know what I mean? But like, it's the same thing with the Palestinians. You have two people that have been shit upon in this world, and they just want to annihilate one another. And one of them has a huge advantage right now.
That's ridiculous.
Like it's just, but again, I mean, the religious significance it's just crazy to me. Like
it's over nothing is the worst part of it all, but it is what it is, and you move on from there. From what I looked into, it was around 2008, 2009 when that Baruch guy shot up the mosque. Mm-hmm. He went into a mosque while they were praying, and I don't know if you've seen in mosques how they pray, but it's on the rugs and kneeling and everything towards Mecca, and so he shot like 125 people in the back, or that number's wrong, but it is a little over 100. And then when the Palestinian people went into the streets and were just protesting, but I don't want to diminish the amount of rock throwing and chaos that ensued, but it was the IDF shot back.
I'm sure it's, I mean, rocks and stuff and
so to
fires
say they were protesting is not exactly 100%.
Against long guns.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is the same thing. There are peaceful ways to disperse this scenario, at least non-violent, non-murderous ways to do it. They just opened fire with live rounds, killing many more.
Look at January 6th.
And exactly.
And only shot one of those people.
Deservedly, but neither here nor there. So what I was trying to get at was that when this was 2008, 2009 time, the IDF were killing civilians. And Hamas came out with that in a video saying, if civilians to you are targets, then civilians are targets for us. Before that, Hamas has tried to hit mostly military scenarios. Their first, I did like this because I hate terrorism. Their first attack they ever did in a bombing was in a car bomb. And they had it between two buses full of military personnel. And in this, what I was watching anyway, said that only the suicide bomber, it was the first suicide bomb, that's what it was. Only the suicide bomber and one Palestinian were killed. And I'm like, ooh, big success. Good job, motherfuckers. Like, I'm glad you fucked up. But either way, that was before that they weren't trying to kill civilians. They were trying to kill military personnel. Is that okay? No.
Dude, the IDF has killed over, I think, 60 some journalists. Yeah. I mean,
the old lady that said I'm older than Israel got sniped within 3 days of saying it on camera. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see any of that.
She was so cool. She didn't give a fuck. She was like, they were trying to question her about the motives of Israel. She's like, I'm older than Israel because she was born before 1947. Yeah. And you knew because it got viral that within a week she was dead, sniped.
I mean, it's
just a civilian talking.
Like the world referred to the area as Palestine.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was Israel.
And they don't respect it. You say Palestinians to hardcore settlers and hardcore Israel.
And like I was saying, like the history, they're most from descendant from the same people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
they just follow different religions and want their holy lands for different reasons.
I mean, they just want to wipe out the other. At least the extremists on each side just want to wipe out the other. And there's civilians in between. And I just don't understand it.
It's so hard, especially from, I feel like a U.S. perspective with the Christianity, because there's no spot that is really like a holy land for Christians. There is, but not in the way that Muslim and Jewish people feel about these locations. Yeah. They put their heads on the walls. Like the brick and mortar matters so much in their worlds that like it's to me ridiculously silly. And to get back to when we started, I don't know how to feel because I don't give a fuck about Hamas. Find each one individually and murder them. I don't give a shit. But the way they're going about it is and should be viewed because this is the information age. We can see it all as a complete overreaction. You know, you're decimating an area.
It's insane. Again, just the fucking number. It's just nuts. 7,500 children are fucking dead.
Yeah,
entire families. Their bloodlines are gone. You know what I mean? That's genocide. Again, like we were talking about intent before this. I don't. It's a cop out. Okay, so I'm not going to say that like Israel isn't in the process of committing genocide by eradicating your people from an area, but it's a cop out sort of for them to be like well, our intent is not to do that. But it's like but you know what's going to happen. You can't sit there and tell me that you don't know the results of you carpet bombing an entire area where there's people that have nowhere to go.
They view them as animals.
You know what I mean? It's just like there's no...
In 2021, that's 2 years ago, if not more, Gutierrez, leader of the UN, is quoted as saying the children of Gaza are living in hell. This is 2021. That was due to Israel occupying them.
Yeah, it's been mentioned many times. Apartheid state, open air prison. Like, it has all the markings of that.
Yeah. And, and then when they retaliate, you fucking destroy them. You've it doesn't make any sense, but I don't know. There's no side. And at this point, what is the outcome? Like, okay, ceasefire tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. You think the Palestinian people are going to be like, thank Muslim gods that there's a fucking ceasefire? No, they're going to want retaliation hard. And you give them any time to form, to get organized, they're going to attack Israel, and we're going to be right back here. So I don't even know that's what I'm saying. I don't know what to think because there is no end.
There's no side in the minuscule part of it between the IDF and Hamas. You know what I mean? They're both just terrible entities and you feel bad for the civilians. But from a global scale, it's the world. All these UN nations and delegates, however hundred many of them, looking at one fucking group that stopped it. This goddamn fucking country. Fucking America, dude. We finance the IDF. Okay, we finance wars all over the fucking world. Looking at Henry Kissinger, who just fucking died, all the war crimes we've committed, and who in our country, who of these legislative people, secretaries of state, presidents, who of them have faced war crime tribunals?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we established the UN after the atrocities of World War II and Hitler and the Holocaust and stuff like that. You know what I mean? People should be held accountable for the atrocities that they commit, that their states commit.
It's a joke. Okay?
It is a fucking joke, and that's what I'm saying. How the whole world at first, like Israel is saying, it wants the whole world to sit there and be like, look at what Hamas did to us. Yes, barbaric, atrocious. But you can't expect the whole world to be like, okay, now go kill almost 20,000 people 2 months later, including 7,500 children, in a way that is just is a cop-out way. Like, it wasn't as visceral, it wasn't personal, it wasn't filmed for all over the world to see in some strange video game style. Like, I agree with you, like you said, it's fucking eerie and weird. It wasn't like that. But the answer isn't to kill scores more. That is not the answer. When you have the financial backing, again, and the intelligence and the training of the West, of the United States, you're going to go into those fucking tunnels and you're going to root them out. If that's what you want to fucking do, that's what you're going to do. Stop fucking bombing. Stop fucking bombing Gaza.
It's absurd. It's absurd that
the whole world's telling you to stop. And how are we the ones that can stop? Oh, okay. The U.S.
Yeah.
The shining light of the world.
We are one of 10.
It sickens the fucking shit out of me.
You know how many countries in this world? Almost 200. One of 10 to vote no on a ceasefire. And what benefit does it have to us other than getting our fucking Jewish people to Jerusalem so the second coming of Jesus, or paying the fucking...
You're back on the Mike Pence evangelical.
No. I mean, I'm off it. I'm saying that, or, to pay the gun companies that are fucking putting this shit out.
You're right. I'm sure that Mike Pence is probably definitely motivated by that. Like, that's probably what he and Mother are thinking right now. Like, well, we have to support them for the second coming of Jesus. It doesn't matter how many people have to die because of it.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
Hark the herald angels sing, Mother.
Yeah.
Glory to Jeebus.
But
anyway,
I mean, it's a little levity I appreciate, but at the same time, it is such a fucking incomprehensible thing for me for anyone to look at this, and for our leaders, who I don't care about, they all suck, but at the same time, I kind of look at them as somewhat knowledgeable of the world, and being able to look at that and say, oh, you are indiscriminately killing, I think it was in Afghanistan, I don't even remember, but we shot a Jeep that we thought they were loading munitions and they were loading water bottles, and we killed 2 people, 2 civilians, and it was a big deal, as it should have been.
Yeah.
Because that was a mistake, and we need to be held accountable for our mistakes. You need to make sure that your information is correct before you attack. You don't just indiscriminately kill tons of children. And when that happens, things should stop immediately. It's been 2 months, and we're sending them tank ammunition under, like, weird bills.
And don't sit there and question why, people are fucking, gonna get upset about this or be radicalized by this, you know what I mean? Or go on college campuses and chant Free Palestine. Like, don't sit there and question that when 7,500 kids have been killed. And the imagery's everywhere. And I'm a parent. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that I don't feel for the Israeli people whose children were killed as well. But again, 7,500 to however many happened out of the 12 or 1,400. Again, the numbers matter this time because they are so disparate. It's
crazy.
Insane. And I think and that's another thing about the college campus thing real quick though. Sean and I have yet to find anything. I haven't found anything, any audio or anything other than what I've seen. 2 articles. I think it was Newsweek or maybe it was USA Today and AP both debunked this audio that was put out there that was modified. But I have not found any college students calling for the genocide of Jewish. Maybe there were individuals, maybe on an anecdotal level, but chanting on college campuses, I haven't found any of that. I've heard them calling out Israel and accusing Israel of genocide. But I've seen presidents of Harvard and Penn being like on Capitol Hill, being grilled, and I'm just confused. Like I don't, even as early as this week, people on MSNBC, a pretty freaking liberal organization, was still saying that happened. Like Joe Scarborough's dumbass, but I don't think that, I haven't found any evidence of it. So I don't think that happened, first of all. But a lot of people, like Sean and I, saying that we're anti-Zionist, and when Zionism meaning like the state of Israel. I'm not saying that that Israelites and Jewish people shouldn't have a state, but it's the Zionist movement that defends the actions of the state. Like I'm not down with the actions of the IDF and stuff right now. And so this is Noam Chomsky. This is the one that I want everybody to hear above all else. And this is his response to being called an anti-Semite because he doesn't jive with the actions of the Zionist state.
Oh, great.
No, we're good.
Respond to the charge that anti-Zionism is the new anti-Semitism.
The best formulation of this was by an ambassador to the United Nations, Abba Eban. He wrote an interesting article in which he was then UN ambassador from the State of Israel. One task was to show that criticism of the policy, what he called anti-Zionism, that means actually criticisms of the policy of the State of Israel, were anti-Semitism. Second task, if the criticism was made by Jews, their task was to show that it's neurotic self-hatred, needs psychiatric treatment. And he gave 2 examples of the latter category. One was I.F. Stone, the other was me. So we have to be treated for our psychiatric disorders, and non-Jews have to be condemned for anti-Semitism if they're critical of the State of Israel. It's understandable why Israeli propaganda would take this position. I don't particularly blame Abba Eban for doing what ambassadors are sometimes supposed to do, but we ought to understand it. There is no sensible charge. No sensible charge. There's nothing to respond to. It's not a form of anti-Semitism. It's simply criticism of the criminal actions of the state.
So we have one congresswoman one congressperson that is Palestinian descent. And I have a quote from her here. It says, opposing the policies of the government of Israel and Netanyahu's extremism is not anti-Semitic. Speaking up for human rights and a ceasefire to save lives should never be condemned. And it's just basic fucking knowledge.
Exactly. It's so simple.
It's human rights. It has nothing to do with the Jewish faith that you're bombing indiscriminately a civilian population.
Like, I challenge anybody to go and just watch a video I mean, and I've done it, and it rips my heart out, especially, and I feel like it does impact me more being a father. I still have a 1-year-old, you know what I mean? And I've, just a lifeless toddler being pulled from the rubble in Gaza. You can find several images of that, and then multiply that for all the other ones that you don't see. You know what I mean? And then how can you sit there and be behind carpet bombing of this area? Israel, the IDF is an experienced military. They want to go in those tunnels. Like I said, send them in the fucking tunnels and stop bombing that place. Get those people out of there, get them to a safe area, and stop bombing the shit out of them. That's what Hamas wants. You're just feeding into that, and you're creating more terrorists that way. You've already killed way more than enough people. I mean, shouldn't be any.
The point's been proven. Although I don't agree with any of the actions, the point's been proven. But it's not like they're going. Like a population Palestinians are not going to just be, like I said, accept the ceasefire and be like, oh, so glad it's over. Of course they're going to retaliate. So I don't even know. Well, I don't think that an eradication is even an option. Of course not. But at this point, after the kind of destruction, and in my opinion, everybody talks down on the UN. I think they do great things. They're just not listened to. Because they come out and they say these things. It's hell on earth for children in 2021. Now we care in 2023. But we don't, 152 nations say ceasefire. And because the paid off ones say no ceasefire, Yeah,
I mean, you said it right there. Paid off. It's about power. It's about money. You know what I mean? We are a huge, America is a huge military industrial complex. So the UN is there for checks and balances. And yeah, they're great. They're a necessary entity. They can do what they can. But I mean, look at the blatant lie the whole world saw about chemical weapons in Iraq, dude. Yep. You know what I mean? Using 9/11 as an excuse to, and like, but the IDF Netanyahu calling October 7th their 9/11, it's just like, so I don't understand. Like, are we just going to back another long-ass war where one side is just going to get obliterated by a well-funded military? Because they have terrorists amidst them, living amongst them, and amongst a group of people that have nowhere to go because they don't have supplies choked off. You know what I mean? They don't have water. Other countries won't receive them, haven't wanted to receive them for a fucking century and more at this point. I mean, back since the Ottoman Empire, and after the War of 1967, the 6 Days War, that's when Palestinian refugees really realized that they had nowhere to go.
Nowhere. And this more than ever. Right now, more than ever. They have absolutely nowhere to go. No food, no water. I mean,
this is the present day of it, man.
Their entire medical system has collapsed in Gaza. It is the most destitute scenario. And to think that this superpower is just bombing,
They're an extension of us, man.
And that's what's disgusting.
I know. And us, like, oh man, at least in this country, nobody's gonna kick down the door and murder us for saying this shit. But literally, I mean, our country, like my friend Jordan has said to me several times, every president's a war criminal, and they all are. Every Secretary of State's a war criminal. Like, we fund this shit, we allow this shit to continue by denying ceasefire, being the only entity to deny a ceasefire when the whole world wants one. You know what I mean?
How is that even possible?
We fund it, we plan it, like. How is it possible? I don't know, because somehow it's going to benefit our interests. Somehow.
But the whole
maybe it's just the investment we've made in Israel. We just got to protect the investment. That's really what it is.
Like 70% of the nation wants, abortion to be legal, but we still encroach. This is the whole fucking world.
It's because of the whole. It's because you have legislative bodies and the super majorities you need and shit like that. Like, small amounts of people can stall things, can fuck things up. You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Well, they can, but
when you go to states' rights too, it's a lot easier at the state level to just and that's basically what a lot of people on the right want is limited government. But there's certain things that I think need to be regulated to a degree by the federal government. But anyways,
of course.
It doesn't. But again, this doesn't mean, like, I still believe in a two-state solution if it can be achieved. There was a point, we mentioned this before, during the Carter era, where it got close between Anwar Sadat, the president of Egypt, and Jimmy Carter. The two-state solution, I mean, this has to end eventually, either when the world ends or in some other lifetime.
The amount
maybe ours, I don't know.
The amount of
But-
shit I watched that showed the settlers' conversations with reporters and the Palestinian conversations with reporters, there is no chance for a two-state solution. It is well beyond those days because there is just one feels like Israel feels like they've been slighted way more than Palestinians, and obviously Palestinians have been slighted way more than Israel. So, but they don't. Neither of the people
in the regional conflict, like, you know, we're not saying like obviously the
just
Holocaust
murder.
is something you have to remember. I mean, that's 6 million. Well,
It's true. It's true. I'm not, of course, but I'm saying in this scenario,
in
of
this
side
scenario,
versus
yeah,
side, when you look at each side, you know, and speak to the inhabitants of their lands, none of them are like, I would really just like peace.
I mean, there's one side that lives in peace and one side that doesn't.
Yeah.
Because one side has money and backing and support, and another doesn't, and they're run by a terrorist group.
Yeah, what were you saying? Israel is one of the countries that has universal health care. And yet we still send them $6 billion.
Yeah, we don't have it here.
And we don't even have it here. Could we use that? Could we use that money maybe? But
And that's not, and again, this isn't us saying that, like, I don't want anything bad to happen to any civilians in Israel either. It's just their state. I just don't agree with. Human beings are just so fucking sickening.
Well,
man.
you look back on the Holocaust
There's
and you
just-
think, how could the Germans be okay with that? And it's because they were like either naive or just ignorant. They didn't care. They didn't want to care. And that's when you reevaluate history, you can see it all. We can see it all right now because of the information age, and it's just happening in real time. You know, I feel like plenty of normal human beings in Israel don't quite grasp what's happening because to them they're like, Palestinians are all Hamas. And that's because of
some of them, yeah.
That's because of their information, their propaganda that they're peddling to their people. They can't distinguish the difference between a Palestinian and a Hamas fighter, and Hamas fighters kill their babies, and by, you know, Israeli propaganda, behead their babies. So of course, kill them all. Then just bomb it. Just get rid of all of that. You know, it's easy.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of sentiment like that, but I'm
just saying that
there's a lot. I mean,
propaganda mentality. I'm not blaming. You know,
but that's the propaganda mentality. Yeah, sure, that's what they're feeding to their people. But
and that's why
I think
still a fucking thing.
That's
propaganda mentality.
Yeah, I mean that's why that's half the country here is divided because of that Trump propaganda bullshit, and that's why half of Israel was divided too. I mean that's the case. I mean they've certainly banded together now. You know what I mean? That's why I was saying in the last episode, Netanyahu's probably salivating. This saved his ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what does he care? Oh, he had to sacrifice 12 to 1,400 of his countrymen, but now, you know, like the spotlight's off him, and now he's just got this war going on. But sorry, my friend, the whole world's watching you fucking murder people in Gaza too. So,
and this is not without repercussions for the U.S. You know, like right after that vote we were talking about at the UN, where we were one of 10 to say no to a ceasefire, the Australian Prime Minister went up and pretty much said what I'm about to say about the U.S. is that we are viewed as lesser because of all this. Like, how can you not see what's happening and say, no, stop this? We're not doing it, so now we are looked at as more of a extremism side. And, you know, that's Australia saying it, but I love Australia. I respect Australia. And they are very much on the side of common sense laws, common sense movements forward, and for them to look at the U.S. and just say, you know, exactly what I'm
certainly
thinking.
have better gun laws than us.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, they get it. They make common sense moves. They really do. But, you know, maybe I'll move to Australia because I've never felt more against my country than I do right now. And I've hated the majority of the things we've done. But to be supporting this genocide is, to me, it just makes like, and what do? Well, you know, like, do we sit by idly? You know, I don't care for protesting because it's fucking bullshit to me.
This is what we're doing.
This is all you can do is keep spreading the knowledge.
Hope that people are going to watch this and at least know that, like, this isn't a simple crisis. And there's just, I mean, you just got to appeal to humanity. That's what seems so sickening to me. Like, people, the people will shove humanity aside.
God damn it, you're not even drinking.
Just water. People will shove humanity aside for the interests of a state, you know, for personal financial gains, for political gain, for a leg up on someone else somewhere, somehow, whether it be a job, you know what I mean? Whether it be, you know, controlling a market, you know, people just, it seems just in the society that we live in with things and power and money and these things that we put all of this worth in, you know, people become greedy. People, I mean, and it's easy for a lot of people to sit here on the other side of the fucking country and just be like, oh, just go, like, where everybody, you know, Mike Pence is just going to go to his Christmas with mother and his family and enjoy it.
Yeah.
While people are just being fucking slaughtered over in the other, you know, the other world, the other side of the world, you know, based on legislation that he voted for because, like you said, he wants, you know, the coming of the Messiah.
Yeah.
So we'll just give them billions of dollars, fund their war machine as they murder people. And again, like, your response, you want to have a response to October 7th, that's fine. Go in those fucking tunnels.
Yeah.
But carpet bombing the shit out of this, I mean, you know what the whole world knows that you're murdering people with these carpet bombs.
I know what Israel is capable of right now in the sense of murder and destruction. So if you want to take every
if that's
Hamas
what you're trying
member,
to, were they just showing off their skills?
yeah. Like
You're really good at murdering people, IDF.
But yeah, and what I'm saying is that take every Hamas member, because I don't, you know, capital punishment to me is an easy out. But I don't want strict, straight up murder. But at the same time, knowing that they're free willing with it, get all Hamas, line them up, and murder them all. I don't give a shit because Hamas is wrong, thinking they can kill civilians.
Sure.
Too. I don't fucking care about that. It's the civilians that are just trying to get by day to day and raise their children that have to run from. Do you know what roof knocking is?
No.
Huh. Israel had come up with it. They send a I'm not going to say the words right, but like there's no munitions in the artillery.
Okay.
So they just send like a bomb with no explosives in it into a roof. So bang. And then they send the bomb that will destroy the building. It's supposed to be a warning sign. The bang artillery piece is huge and takes out the majority of the building anyway. And then if you watch videos of it, it's less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Grab your shit and go. Or maybe that was an earthquake. I don't know. And it's called roof knocking. And something they do, as they say, is humanitarian. We let them know ahead of time before we destroy their building that we're coming in. It's just, and you can watch the video. It is so fast that they do it. Within 30 seconds to a minute.
Crazy.
Done. It's called roof knocking. But
Nah, I'd never heard of that.
it's
I mean, I
absurd.
don't even, their fucking tactics are just, I mean, if you want blood on your hands, if you want to have that blood on your hands, you know, violence begets violence, your revenge for October 7th, like, I get that. You want to avenge your children, your babies. I understand that.
Yeah.
If you want that blood on your hands, fucking dipping it in pools of the blood of 7,500 children is not the way to go about it. You know what I mean? I don't think there's any. I'm not into the whole violence begets violence thing, but like if something happened to my family,
it's still not children.
If something happened to my family, to my kids,
You'd want to.
I don't know what I'd want to do. You know what I mean? So I haven't experienced that emotion. I'm sure
I can almost
a lot of me.
100% say you wouldn't want to kill the kids
I would.
of
No,
the man that did it, the woman that did it.
No,
You'd
I'm not
wanna
a fucking
man
Sicario
woman,
or some shit.
But you'd want to kill the man or woman that did whatever happened. But
Yeah,
you
for
would not want to kill their children.
If some kid hits my kid, I'm gonna get pissed at their fucking parent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, shit like that. If they're adults and so, you know, whatever. But yeah, no, I certainly
It makes
I don't know.
No sense.
It doesn't make sense at all, and it's just we're just creating more terrorists, creating more hatred and anger, and violence begets violence. So
Yeah, but I would say be as vocally active as you can. Obviously, no aggression in your protests, but that's the only thing we can do. And at a time like this, like I said, I've never felt this way about the country before. I feel like I want to call more to action for everyone. Anything you can do. Share the articles. Be annoying as shit. People want to say that, you know, like this whole Palestinian conversation is annoying.
Prove a point. Prove somebody wrong with facts. Open their eyes to something that they didn't know. Try and put it in a way that they can understand. Like, people love to say, like, oh, you know, like this attack per capita on this population is like this amount of Americans killed, you know, per capita in our population, stuff like that. Try and put it in some way that they can understand.
Yeah.
You know, if you have to, as sickening as it might be, if they have kids and they're like, oh, you know, keep funding Israel, fuck Hamas. If they have kids,
Bomb
then
them
appeal to
all.
them. Then
You know?
appeal to them. Be like, you have children, don't you? Give me 30 seconds to pull up a video or some imagery of dead children being hauled out of rubble from some huge ass fucking bomb in the middle of Gaza that the IDF dropped.
Yeah.
One of hundreds that they drop in like an hours it's insane the amount of munitions. Like,
It
You-
really is a wild
you
amount.
have to appeal to people's humanity. That's what I've always kind of thought we were doing here, and I know I've said it many times. You know, it seems like common sense to just be like, the whole world wants you to stop dropping bombs on people who are trying to seek refuge from a conflict between two military organizations. You know what I mean? One an actual state military, the other a terrorist military. Okay, they're refugees. Yeah. So why are we dropping bombs in an area where they are? You know what I mean? They're just doesn't...
fully capable of a ground war where they go in and just fucking go through the tunnels.
Yeah, I mean, like, this isn't...
It is T-shirts and rocks versus a fully armed military with tank. We just sent tank munitions behind the scenes. That's what Biden did. You know, like, we're fighting for more funding, and that's a bigger deal because it has Ukraine involved and now immigration because of the GOP. But behind the scenes, there was a bill that was passed that allowed us to send them tank munitions. So they're going in with tanks against the Palestinians. Again, they don't have tanks. They have rockets and machine guns and their T-shirts, and that's it.
Dude, I mean, it's always the whole thing for me is just like they call them like casualties of war. You know what I mean? Like the Allied forces, before we stormed Normandy in June 1944, when we softened up the targets with artillery and stuff like that, we killed tens of thousands of innocent French people. Okay. And then but the French were our allies. But I mean, we killed them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's insane. Like, when you think about it, like, I didn't even know that. Like, what can be accepted as casualties of war for what? Like, the greater good? I guess at that time it was the greater good. I mean, Nazism was, for like the modern world, like the 1900s at least. Like,
but that was a real fight. That was a real fight.
Yeah, against an expanding force that was committing genocide.
This is not a real fight. This is a straight up, like I've said many times and I stand by it, it's straight up genocide. It's 100% an eradication.
Yeah, I mean, again, intent, like I'll have a conversation about intent, you know what I mean? But it is, I mean, you just got to call it like you see it. It is what it is. It's currently in mass numbers, the killing of a people in a certain area and they're being displaced. Like, I mean, that's like, look it up. It's it's not word for word, but
it's a siege. The word siege means to cut off all ties from the outside world to first start depleting them, and then they've been doing that for years, more so after October 7th. But at that point, you know, they starve them, they then bomb the shit out of them, and then go in on a ground war to eradicate them. And then who's getting that land? Israel, 100%.
Yeah,
and it's just the way it is. But you know, we're going in circles saying the same shit over and over again. So. It's awful. I don't even know. You know, I do know to say, pull for the ceasefire as much as you can. That needs to happen to support, obviously support Hamas or support Israel doesn't make any sense. They're both awful. But support the civilians and try and get a ceasefire, and then hopefully diplomatic minds will prevail. And you know, right.
Well. Remember, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism.
That's right.
We're being critical of the state of Israel and their policy right now towards the Palestinians in Gaza as they bomb the shit out of them into oblivion. That's what we're being critical of.
Yes.
Not anti-Semitic at all. My stepdad's Jewish. I love the man to death. He would probably argue a lot with me about a lot of these things. Okay, he's not like a Zionist or anything like that, but he believes in at least a two-state solution. He believes that Israel should have a place in the world where they can live freely and stuff. And you know, I don't have a problem with that either, but I don't think that's going to happen because both sides have people in them that at least have enough influence to continue to allow these atrocities to happen between. I mean, there's just no.
They don't look at their neighbors as human beings and human cultures. They look at them as animals and beasts. And
that's a good way of putting it.
You can't do anything about it.
No. Well, 8 episodes, not too bad. Maybe we'll get to at least 10 next year. I don't know. My kids keep getting older. Things keep getting more complicated. I don't have a job. Who knows what my life's going to frickin' be like.
It's all changing.
But we hope to be back. And this is what, Thursday? Let's see. I'm off tomorrow. I will have to be with my youngest for most of the day. Yeah. But we'll get this up to you soon.
Yeah, we'll figure it
Friday, over the weekend.
You'll
probably.
see it. You'll see it.
Cool. And it looks like we made it the whole way through with video, so.
Yeah, we did.
All right, nerds.
Thanks for
listening. Be
listening.
good to one another, you fucking assholes. Enjoy your holidays.
Bye.
But think about what's going on the other end of the world.
That's right.
Season 2.
Out.
Slayers of Boredom Podcast.
Lovely.